Yeah, again, I think sometimes we're guilty of looking at the consumer base and thinking it's like us in this room, and that's the general population. So I would start with most people are not onto a smartphone yet. And so when you say, what were they doing in 3G versus 4G, they were talking on 3G, maybe sending some SMS, some pictures and that. And so we're really trying to light up the world of 4G and explain to consumers what's possible. What are consumers doing? Frankly, what we try to bring to life, and historically carriers have had phones in the store and they talk about data plans and it's voice and text. So instead, again, we're trying to say this is what you can do. And so from the moment someone comes to our website, you'll soon see some new developments there, but explaining to the consumers all the great things that 4G allows them to do.
Footnote 105 to the National Broadband Plan was ours, and what we were advocating for was the whole concept of utilizing broadcast TV spectrum to complement 4G networks as we move forward and add a multicast extension to the unicast internet. The two trends that we're deeply engaged with is the whole concept of broadcasting the internet. If you go and look at any, one of the neat things about media is there really is a mass media. We actually all do watch a lot of the same stuff. The thing is, we don't all watch it at the same time. So we've devolved into a unicast distribution. The internet is today a unicast architecture. When Mark Cuban sold broadcast.com to Yahoo for $5 billion, the only thing broadcasting his business was the name. It was a warehouse full of ports then, and it's a warehouse full of ports today, multiplied times hundreds. So the internet has gone from being this extraordinary promise and image of a green industry to one that is becoming one of the least green industries around.
I think if you look at the analytics industry, generally speaking, maybe starting there's sort of four distinct kind of categories of analytic companies over the last couple decades. So the first is generally those that do kind of OLAP and basic reporting. And I would say, at least in my experience, most of the folks in the mobile data space are kind of in that stage, just understanding who your customer is. And it can be a challenging issue for lots of reasons, partly because some of these consumers in their life cycle have been feature phone users that are migrating to smartphone. There's no consistent cookies in the mobile ecosystem like you have on the PC. So even understanding who your consumer is just a different technical challenge in a mobile context than it is in a traditional PC-based world. So I'd say most of the industry is kind of in that first stage, understand the consumer, kind of the basic reporting. The second is typically around more OLAP, where you want to do some more interesting drill downs, understanding what population uses a 4G mobile device, also uses a pad computing device, and what are the key things they're doing in that. Where it gets to be more interesting is where you take analytics and you make it actionable. And that kind of gets into data mining and where we're focused, which is around predictive analytics. And the goal there is really using analytics as a tool and the data itself as underlying currency, so to speak, to try to improve, as you said, some of the different consumer experiences.
I think it's really important because when you start looking at the capacity that video is consuming on service providers' networks right now, whether you hear that it's growing 300% on T-Mobile's network, or you hear that Netflix and other videos, Netflix and YouTube are taking up huge proportions of the available bandwidth, whether it's at the core or at the edge of the network. Service providers are definitely going to need tools to capture and harness, capture policies that can provide their end users with the services that they're willing to pay for. And if they're not paying for something, then they want to at least control the network utilization and the bandwidth consumption that is resulting from all these new services that are being pulled across the network. So I think that it is core to our strategy to have something that enables a service provider to have a tool that is married on the network side with the billing side. And so between the limitations and scarcity of spectrum, and if you weigh that up against the massively increasing demand for bandwidth, and consumer population who expects to get things for free or not have them throttled, you've got a couple of different a couple of different interest groups that are right now colliding against each other, and no one's really figured out the magic, special sauce that makes everyone happy yet.
I mean, the operators, at least in the space that Newbay plays, kind of the digital content service space for consumers and even potentially for small and medium businesses, the operators are competing among themselves. They're competing with the device makers, particularly with Apple, with their iCloud offer. And I wouldn't be surprised if other device makers come out with similar type services. They're competing with certainly with Google, with their whole ecosystem with Google Docs, and they've got a music offering and stuff like that. I'm sure they'll expand that. They're competing with Amazon, who I think it was just 2 or 3 months ago announced kind of more of a music service. It's also a backup service. So all these pieces are coming together. I think operators, we work with T-Mobile, with Brad and stuff. He's talking about some of the services that they have out there. It's very interesting. We started off years ago with kind of just a photo type service, and then we started to move into social networking and then into digital vault. And we've been talking about this vision of pulling all these pieces together. And like I said, I think Apple's probably the closest to doing that.